What a better way to get out of a betting slump than to bet on the team that is 0-6. I could name off every stat in the book. I could go off anything, but we're going off of feeling here. I'm throwing away the stat book. If I don't go 3-2 or better this week, I'm officially declaring myself as the new fade god of college football. After a slight comeback week in week 5, week 6 was just abysmal for myself. Going 1-4 with my only win being Navy's team total over 31.5. I went from 10-10 on the season to now 11-14 on the season. So we could still make a very, very nice comeback and end the season well, but we really got to start pushing. We live, we learn, we read the board better each week. At least that's what we're supposed to do, right? So I come in, dialed in my algorithm a little bit, looked at the stats a little better, looked at the emotional factors a little better, okay? So I have for you 5 bets that I think are going to crush this week to get us back on track. My goal was to get back to 500 betting on the year this week, and then we will continue pushing forward, okay? So let's get into it. Our first bet of the day, we have to go to the Red River rivalry, right? Because while it is a very tough game to predict at the moment, we can't walk away from Saturday not betting on that game, right? What kind of college football fans would we be? Terrible ones. So let's break it down on what I think is going to happen. I think the best bet in this game, while the under is tempting, is Oklahoma plus 1.5. And I'm sure a lot of people like myself would have thought this spread would have been in that like Oklahoma minus 3.5 to 5.5 range after what we saw from Texas last week. But here we find a Oklahoma team that is underdogs. And I think most of that has to do with John Mateer's health question. As of right now, it looks like he's not going to play, but it's still possible he will play. But I want to talk about all the other factors outside of the quarterback battle first. Texas's offensive line has been really, really bad this year for an SEC team, for a Texas team, versus Ohio State and University of Florida, the 2 Power 4 schools that Texas has faced. Arch has faced pressure in 35 of 78 dropbacks. For those of you that don't know math, that's really bad. Versus the University of Florida, where Texas just got manhandled up front, Texas only averaged 2.0 yards per carry. And if you exclude Arch out of that and just the running backs, it was 1.36. So their running game was just unbelievable bad. In fact, Arch Manning is actually the team's leading rusher on the whole season. It is. They haven't been able to generate pressure with the offensive linemen pushing the defensive line up the field. They haven't been able to seal gaps, and the running backs aren't hitting these gaps either. So you have a Texas team that on the offensive side of the ball can't protect the quarterback and can't generate any kind of plays in the run. And on the other side of the ball, we have the Sooners defensive line, or the front 7 as a whole, which I would say is a top 3 front 7 unit in the country, maybe even number 1, but definitely top 3. They are 5th in the country in opponents' rushing yards per game. They are number 1 in EPA per pass, number 14 in EPA per rush. So basically, defensively, they don't let opposing offenses move the ball on them in either way. They are 4th in pressure rate and number 1 in sacks per game, number 1 in defensive third down conversion. So they don't let you move the ball. When you get third down, they don't let you convert. And part of the, contributing to both of those, they get after the quarterback hard. So I look at this and I'm like, this Oklahoma defense is such a bad matchup for this Texas offense. Now, the biggest question is who's going to be playing offense for Oklahoma themselves have not ran the ball well at all. And that is going to be a big key point for Oklahoma setting themselves up into a position to take control of this game. Can they establish the run? Can they get the ball moving? But the bigger question is who will Oklahoma have at quarterback? Mateer has 1,200 yards passing on the season, 11 total touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he has a 0.17 EPA per dropback, which is very good. Then you have Hawkins, who only has 1 game starting versus a Kent State team that they blew out. So he didn't really need to go crazy and be super efficient, but he had 117 yards passing, 4 total touchdowns, no picks, and a 0.07 EPA per dropback. Listen, this is a must-win game for both teams, and everyone's going to look at Texas and be like, oh, you have to win this game to stay in the playoff picture, which is true. Texas feels a lot of pressure this game, but so does Oklahoma. Oklahoma has arguably the hardest schedule coming up of any team in the country. Yes, they are 5-0. Yes, they could probably spare 2 losses, but They basically play, I think every team they play for the rest of the season besides one is ranked at the moment. And obviously rankings can change, but their schedule is absolutely a gauntlet. So to Oklahoma, if you're Brett Venables, who has been crushing it when calling his defense recently, you're telling your team, not only is this a rivalry game, that we need to win for our pride. This is a Texas team that is down. We've seen the blueprint to beat them. And if we win this game and go 6-0, we set ourselves perfectly up in a position to make the college football playoffs. But if we lose this game, our backs will be kind of against the wall and we have to play an almost perfect schedule. So this is the game Oklahoma has to win. So I think Oklahoma plus 1.5 is the play I'm rocking with. If you want to go Oklahoma money line, just to get a little bit of juice, go for it. I'm just going to take the plus 1.5. It doesn't change the payout that much. And you spare a Texas 1-point win, you still get the win in the books. Oklahoma plus 1.5. First play of the day. Bet number 2, we're going to Beaver Stadium, where we see the team that had the biggest upset loss of the year to the date. We are seeing Penn State host Northwestern, where we are taking Penn State minus 11.5 in the first half. And I get it. Penn State just embarrassed themselves on national TV a week after losing their biggest game of the year to Oregon. But this Penn State team, I don't think they're going to quit like a lot of people. I could name off every stat in the book. I could go off anything, but we're going off of feeling here. I'm throwing away the stat book. Granted, I'll still give you some stats, don't worry. But Penn State is going to set a statement here. Listen, they need to prove that they're not pushovers, that they're competitors. And I know everyone in the country thinks they're pushovers. And you know what? I kind of think so myself. But this Northwestern team is not good enough to bring that side of Penn State out. Penn State likes to beat the shit out of these kind of schools. Penn State is going to be like, listen, we're the laughing stock of the entire fucking nation, right? Let's go out and let's fucking put some points on the board and let's blow a team out. Now, the reason I'm taking the first half is because I don't want to see Penn State get it by 30 and let the foot off the gas pedal a little bit, and then Northwestern get the backdoor cover to cover what was it was either 22.5 or 23.5. I'm going to take the first half where I know Penn State is going to be playing their ass off and showing their home crowd why they're still one of the best teams in the country. Now, Northwestern, their offense has been fucking terrible. They are 115th in EPA per pass, 33 in EPA per rush, 115th in net EPA per play. Preston Stone, their quarterback, has 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 2 fumbles. He's been sacked 7 times. Penn State's defense, I know they got shredded last week, but overall, if you look at their entire body for the season, for the last couple seasons, the defense is what shines. Their offense has been what's struggling, unlike last week. Overall, on the defense, they're 22nd EPA per pass, 41 on EPA per rush, 28th in defensive success. They have they're 54th in the nation in sacks per game, 24th in EPA per game. This is going to stack the box. They're going to rush the pass. They're going to blitz, blitz, blitz. They're going to show Northwestern we don't belong on the same field. We are still a top dog. Penn State minus 11.5 in the first half. What a better way to get out of a betting slump than to bet on the team that is 0-6. We take our talents now to the state of Oregon, where we have Wake Forest at Oregon State. Well, we are taking Oregon State plus 3. And if you want to get a little spicy, take their money line. But we're going plus 3 to be a little safe. Listen, I don't got a lot of stats for you this game, right? Because to be honest, the stats aren't good in our favor. But here's why I think that is. Look at the schedule. Wake Forest has been more successful. Yes. They haven't been like crazy good this year though. And then they beat up FCS Western Carolina. But let's look at Oregon State's schedule. Yes, they're 0-6. They played Oregon, who is the second, third best team in the country. They played Cal, who's 4-2. Fresno State, who has won 5 in a row now. Texas Tech, who is also a top 10 team in the country. They barely lost to Houston, who was undefeated until last week versus Texas Tech. And then they lost a close one at App State. With App State being the worst team they've played all year, their schedule has actually been very, very underratedly tough. And while they have gotten blown out in a handful of those games, they've also played very competitively in a handful of those games. The biggest question is, are we going to get some Malik magic, or is he going to make himself disappear? He does have 1,500 passing yards on the season and 9 touchdowns, but he also has 7 interceptions, 5 of which were in the first 3 games. Oregon State is 64th in offensive success and 62nd in third down conversion success. So they are kind of middle of the pack of offense overall. Nothing great by any means, but not terrible. I think when it comes down to it, do we really think Oregon State is going to keep losing every game they play? Do we think they're going to be winless? No. I think they'll get at least a couple, like most teams do. I think this is a good opportunity for a Wake Forest team that is probably a little overrated, an Oregon State team, which is a little underrated. Wake Forest has to fly across the country. Oregon State, this is not an easy place for them to play. So Oregon State +3 is our bet number 3 on the day. We have a very, very ugly game up next. Well, we have South Carolina going to LSU. Two teams with stout defenses that were supposed to have very good offenses, but both of them have been very disappointing. We are taking South Carolina +8.5. Listen, this is a tale of two cities that are having the same problems. Like I said, both have struggled on offense, but have excelled on defense. Let's look at South Carolina's outlook for the game. What can sellers in the passing attack and their running game do on this Saturday? They are 75th in EPA per pass, 69th in passing success, and only 129th in rushing success. They are passing the ball average, and they are running the ball like one of the worst teams in the nation. On defense, they are 49th in EPA per pass, and then 71st in defensive success. They have 14 sacks on the season, which is very good. Their front seven is up there with what Oklahoma is talking about. Their corners are good, not great, but their front seven is really where they stand out. Now, the defense has been a little underwhelming this season for what talent they have, but I really do think after the bye, they're going to start clicking. They're going to play some beamer ball. They're going to look to get some defensive touchdowns as well. The question is, can Sellers make enough big plays to overcome the lack of consistency they get from the run game and his own passing game, right? On the LSU side of the ball, their defense is one of the best in the country. No doubt about it. But on offense, they're 103rd in the nation in EPA per rush, 125th rushing success. They're just as bad as at running the ball as USC. They've also given up 7 sacks in 5 games. I don't necessarily think USC will win this game. They could. I think Sellers could. I think their defense could get a few big plays of themselves to put themselves in a position to win this game. But I think South Carolina's defense is too good. And I think LSU's offense is not explosive enough for them to win this game by more than a touchdown. So I think 8.5 is just too much. I think South Carolina's defense will not only stuff the run easily enough where they can sell out versus the pass better, but they'll also get after Nussmeier enough. And I don't know if he's healthy yet. I know they had the bye, so he should be, but I don't think he will stay in the pocket well enough. There'll be too many big plays on that South Carolina defense for USC to cover an 8.5 spread. Then our last bet of the day, we look to the Mountain West Conference where we have San Diego State at Nevada, where we take San Diego State -6.5. This line kind of been bouncing around between 6.5 and 7.5. I do think it is playable at 7.5, but depending on what the odds are, you could always just adjust it to 6.5. Just be a little safer. I don't think it'll change that much. You do what you want at that place. Nevada has been struggling significantly this whole season on both sides of the ball. They are 122nd in offensive success rate, 106th in defensive success. They are 125th in net EPA per drive, and 129th in EPA per play. And they are 132nd in turnover margin. They don't move the ball. They don't stop the ball. And they turn the ball over. On the other side of the ball, the Aztecs have been good, not great, kind of average. 85th in EPA per pass, 57th in EPA per rush. Running back Lucky Sutton is kind of their key guy. He has almost 5.5 yards per rushing attempt, and he has a 0.27 EPA per rush. Wide receiver Jordan Napier, he's not an elite wide receiver, but he's a big play waiting to happen. Now on the defensive side of the ball, the Aztecs have really been standout. And I know they haven't played elite talent, but Nevada's not an elite talent, so this is a good place to look at it. San Diego State is 10th in defensive success, 14th in EPA per pass. Now, they are only 42nd EPA per rush, but they are 4th in defensive third down success rate. So while their pass defense is not elite, Nevada is far from an elite passing team anyways. So they're a good enough pass defense team to stop a Nevada struggling offense. They also are 67th in pass rush and 45th in sack percentage. I expect this Aztec team to move the ball well enough to score enough with their defense dominating Nevada, where they can easily cover a touchdown spread. So San Diego State minus 6.5. Play it at 7.5. That's the only thing you got. Now let's put the betting away and let's just talk football. Let's just talk football like a couple guys at the tailgate shooting the shit, and let's see what we think is going to happen for the weekend ahead of us. So before I get into that, remember, betting's over. This is just actual picks, not spreads, not over-unders, just who I think will win these matchups. The first ranked game we have is Friday night, where we have South Florida playing North Texas in Denton, Texas. This game is very, very underrated for playoff implications. And to be honest, I would argue out of all the teams that are in big matchups this weekend, besides maybe Texas, no one has more of playoff stake ahead of them besides these two teams. What I mean by that is there are a lot of teams that are playing this weekend that are either have 0 losses or 1 loss. Ohio State 0 losses, Bama 1 loss, Michigan 1 loss. Do you get what I'm saying? A 2-team loss in those conferences can make the playoffs. But this matchup here is one of the bigger matchups of the weekend because it'll help decide who wins or who goes to the American Conference Championship game. And as of right now, with our current playoff setup, we obviously need a group of 5 conference winner. I think the American is the clear front runner to represent that. They have about 4 or 5 teams that are competing for that. These teams are 2 of them. South Florida is 4-1, with their only loss being Miami, and North Texas is 5-0. So whoever wins this will help set them up on top of not only the American Conference, but looking to be a ranked team. I think North Texas does actually squeak away with this win. It'll be very, very tough. I love South Florida's quarterback, but I think North Texas's team overall is a little more balanced, and they get the home field advantage. I take North Texas to squeak out a win here. We have Ohio State playing Illinois. I think Illinois can keep it close. Luke Altmaier is playing unbelievable this season, but I think Ohio State is just too much up front. Their secondary is too much. And then on the offensive side of the ball, that receiver group, Julian Salan, is playing amazing. I expect Ohio State to not blow them out, but win comfortable enough. Next, we got Alabama versus Missouri, a very, very fun matchup. Both quarterbacks have been playing unbelievable. Ty Simpson is looking to put himself in the Heisman frontrunner, but Hardy, the running back from Missouri, is right behind him. I think Missouri is actually a very, very good team, but they haven't been tested as well as Alabama has. And while I am afraid Alabama is coming off 2 big wins that, make them a little unlocked, beating Georgia and then Vanderbilt back to back, I'm afraid this is almost a trap game. And I do think you should keep an eye out for that. But I think Bama is just a more talented team. I think they realize with being already 1 loss, they really can't afford to get that second loss too early in the season because it probably will happen at some point. So I think Bama wins at Missouri. We have Florida State playing Pittsburgh. I'm not going to talk about this game too much. Florida State will win this game. I think Pittsburgh can make some splashes here or there and keep it close for a little bit, but overall, Florida will just kind of run away with this game. Ole Miss blows out Washington State. I'm not going to talk about that one. Indiana at Oregon is probably the most fun matchup of the weekend. This will be the first time this year we really get to see this Indiana team versus an elite defense because their offense has been unbelievable. But I really do think this Oregon team is the second best team in the country. They also are at home. So I do pick Oregon to win this game. I think it'll be close. The spread is like 7. I do think that's kind of a good range. I could see this game being anywhere from like a 6 to 10 point victory for Oregon. Then we have Oklahoma and Texas in the Red River rivalry. I already talked about this on the betting. I'm going Oklahoma to win. Georgia Tech will manhandle Virginia Tech. I'm not going to talk about that one. Notre Dame will handle NC State very easily. Not going to talk about that one. Iowa State at Colorado. I think Iowa State wins this. Their offense is phenomenal. Their defense is not the worst in the world. I think Colorado is a pretty bad team. And while I actually would think this could be a trap game in some scenarios, Iowa State has their bye week coming up. So I think they look at it as like, let's just get this game over with. We get our bye week, and then we get the BYU the week after the bye. So they're going to go in, take care of business, not let Colorado mess around. Iowa State wins that game. I think Tennessee blows out Arkansas. Arkansas's defense is just so bad. Tennessee will probably score 40 plus on them again. I don't think Florida can pull off 2 big upsets in a row. I do think they can keep this close, but overall, Texas A&M is just too good. They're on their home field. Texas A&M wins that. Texas Tech also wins their game. I think Kansas will keep it close in the first half. Second half, Texas Tech pulls away. They just have too much talent. They're too deep. And our next upset is Auburn defeating Georgia. The books know this is a close game. Playing at Jordan-Hare Stadium at night is so tough. Auburn's coming off a bye week. And even though Georgia played with a ton of intensity versus Kentucky, I think this Auburn team is coming out knowing their season is pretty much over with one more loss. Not that anyone expects them to go to the playoffs, but they still technically have a shot. And this coaching staff knows they are on the chopping block. They have to win to survive. They're going to come into this game with just their lives on the line. It's home. It's a night crowd. I think they can beat Georgia. Auburn wins in a nail biter. Next, we have Michigan and USC. I think USC can score with the best of them, and they have it at their own stadium. But I think Michigan's physicality up front will be too much. We know Haynes has been unbelievable for Michigan this year. USC really struggles to stop that kind of physical game. So while USC will score on Michigan enough to keep it close, I think Michigan will end up peeling away with their physicality and Bryce Underwood giving enough big plays, whether with his arm or with his legs, to win the game. LSU and South Carolina already talked about it. I think it'll be close, but LSU ends up winning this game. And we have BYU at Arizona, where I think BYU gets upset. BYU is looking too far ahead in their schedule. They have Utah next week. They have Iowa State the week after. BYU is going to just come into this game with that in their mind. Arizona's playing at home. They're playing very well this year. Fifta has been a phenomenal quarterback this year. I think Arizona steals the victory, knocks BYU off the totem pole, and those boys are going to be partying in Tucson all night. Then, last game of the day, we have Utah and Arizona State, where technically Arizona State are underdogs, even though they are ranked. And I think the same problem with BYU we see with Utah. Utah is looking ahead. You have the Holy War coming up. You have even though you're in your home stadium, I think Arizona State, with the experience of Sam Leavitt and the skill of Jordan Tyson, I think they overcome this Utah defense. I do think Utah's defensive line will be really hard to deal with. So if Utah wins, it'll definitely be because they were able to get after him. They were able to stop the run. But I think Arizona State wins in a close one.